Hey crocheters, welcome back to my crochet channel. I just learned how to crochet the grit stitch and I love this stitch so much I want to show you how to crochet it too. For this little sample, I'm using some worsted weight acrylic yarn and a size 4.5mm crochet hook. The grit stitch uses multiples of 2 plus 1 and an additional 2 stitches for the foundation chain. To break it down, I want to have 20 stitches, so I'm making 20 chains. Then adding 1 more chain and adding 2 more chains to the foundation chain, so I have a total of 23 chains to start. Now ignore what you're seeing in this video because I accidentally worked into the second chain from the hook, but I should have worked into the third chain from the hook. And yes, this will create a little snag later on, but we'll worry about that when we get there. The reason we're working into the third chain is that the first 2 chains count as a single crochet. So make a double crochet in the third chain from the hook, then chain 1, skip 1 chain, and into the next chain, make 1 single crochet and 1 double crochet. And that's how easy it is. I'm just going to repeat that all the way across. Chain 1, skip 1 chain, single crochet and double crochet into the next chain. The first foundation row is usually pretty tedious for me, but I like this stitch because it involves skipping a chain, so it feels like I'm moving along a bit quicker despite the fact that I'm making 2 stitches in the same chain, but somehow it just seems faster. I don't know. So continue repeating the same steps, chain 1, skip 1, single crochet and double crochet in the next chain until you have 2 chains left. And as you can see, I have 3 chains left because, as I mentioned earlier, I worked into the second chain from the hook instead of the third chain, resulting in an extra chain at the end. But I refuse to undo everything even for such a small sample. Instead of starting over again, I'm going to undo the initial slip knot and pull the yarn tail out and tighten again. There. No more extra chain at the end, almost like I actually counted my stitches properly. At the end of the row, chain 1, skip 1 chain and work 1 single crochet into the last chain. And that's row 1 done. Next, chain 1 and turn to start row 2. The chain 1 counts as a single crochet. Make 1 double crochet into the first stitch. Then skip the next double crochet and into the next single crochet work 1 single crochet and 1 double crochet, and repeat. Skip the next double crochet and work 1 single crochet and 1 double crochet into the next single crochet all the way across. If you get lost or forget what you were doing, just notice if the stitch you're working into is short or tall, and just remember you always start with a single crochet followed by a double crochet. This is why I really enjoyed learning this stitch because it was easy to remember the pattern and I got into a nice little rhythm. Then at the end of the row, you will have 2 stitches left. Skip 1 stitch and work a single crochet into the turning chain. I always find it hard to see the turning chain, so I just poke the hook through where I think it is and call it a day. And that's row 2. Now just repeat row 2 until you reach your desired length. Now what can you possibly do with this stitch? Well, aside from just crocheting it, because in my opinion this is such a meditative and relaxing stitch and I would happily crochet it just because, there are some great uses for it. The texture is dense and sturdy without being overly stiff, so this would be great for washcloths, coasters, mug rugs, mats. You could make sleeves or covers for laptops and tablets. If you use a heavy duty yarn and maybe a smaller hook or tighter tension, you could make this into a very dense and sturdy fabric that would be great for a bag or a basket. If you use a lightweight yarn and more relaxed tension, you could have a flexible and soft fabric for a skirt, a scarf, headband, vest, or top. You get the picture. And of course, the grit stitch would be amazing for a blanket, especially if you use a larger hook and a yarn like a bulky yarn. I can just picture it, and it would be so nice and warm and cozy. Also, I want to point out how the corners and the edges don't curl the way other crochet pieces do. So I wonder if a project with the grit stitch would require much blocking or shaping after. Might be something to experiment with. So have you tried this stitch before? What did you think? And if you haven't tried it, can you think of other crochet projects you could make with it? Share them in the comments and let's see if we can inspire each other. I hope you enjoyed this video and found the tutorial helpful. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.